Hello everybody, welcome to our Livestock Market Report. I'm Coulter Brown from the Northern Ag Network. This report is sponsored again by Ag Risk Advisors. If you're thinking about livestock risk protection at all in 2021, make sure to reach out to them and even consider signing up for their daily free LRP rate updates that'll be delivered to your inbox. You can do that at lrpadvisors.com. Well, hopefully you survived February all right. Definitely a shock to the system after such a mild January to see those real cold temperatures. 30 below is just not fit for man or beast. Hopefully these temperatures improve a little bit as we get into March and really start calving in earnest. Turning to our markets now, live cattle futures performed pretty well over the last month, both on the board and in the cash trade. We actually saw April live cattle futures touch contract highs in the middle of the month, and they did slide back a little bit from there, but cash cattle worked higher all month long. We've been higher in the cash for 5 weeks now. The back half of the month here we saw very small increases, but still moving higher. That's what we want to see. Majority of the live sales occurring at 114 recently, and dress trade from 180 to 181. The feeder cattle futures did pick up a little bit of ground over the course of the month, but really they traded pretty steady, just following whatever the corn's doing. If corn's up, feeders are down, and vice versa. Right now that corn price at about $5.50 a bushel, but USDA said in their outlook forum in February that they expect new crop corn prices to average $4.20 over the marketing year. So not expecting corn prices to stay quite this high. Turning to some of our stockyards around the region to talk about cash feeder cattle prices, the feeder market really improved over the last month. A couple dollars higher, I would say. At Ogallala Livestock in Nebraska, we saw the bigger 5-weight steers selling from 177 to 185, 6 to 650 pound steers 158 to 166. Heavier 6-weights not far behind from 156 to 161. 7 to 7.5 weight steers bringing 147 to 155. Probably the best test of the bred cattle market occurred at the public auction yards. Well, they held their Blue Ribbon 2 sale early last month. There we saw the bred heifers selling from $1,400 to $1,550, topping out at $1,675. Young cows mostly from $1,500 to $1,700 with a top of $1,785, and middle-aged cows primarily $1,300 up to $1,560. Lamb prices really were affected by the bitter cold in February, especially the lighter lambs, but slaughter ewes are where we've seen the biggest gains of this market, 15 to 20 higher at the last sale in Newell. Most of those ewes selling from $1.10 up to $1.25. As we finish out our report here, I want to spend a little bit of time on Cattlefax's market outlook that they presented at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association's Winter Roundup. Winter Reboot, I should say. It's always one of the highlights of that NCBA convention is getting to hear that Cattlefax outlook, and they were optimistic, but certainly we do have some short-term challenges to work through. We're going to start talking about the challenges. I'm not a weatherman, but it does seem like the long-term forecasts are suggesting conditions could stay dry, making things difficult for producers that have battled drought for quite a while now, and that could lead to increased herd liquidation if it stays that way for too long. Also, we're looking at higher feed costs. We talked about higher corn prices, but hay prices aren't going down either. And then, of course, we still have to get through the pandemic. As we're trying to do that and get this economy fired back up, the U.S. is expected to have record beef production in 2021, so we'll need to have that economy firing on all cylinders to work through higher supplies. But that's where things turn positive because cattle prices are expected to work higher, really led by the exceptional domestic beef demand that we have here in the U.S., and exports are expected to increase as much as 5% with really strong demand occurring in Asia, especially China, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, all performing well. And imports are expected to be down from Australia and New Zealand, so that should help cattle prices as well. Now, in our last report, we mentioned the beef cow herd in the U.S. is contracting, been down for 2 years now. When you combine those smaller numbers with increased processing capacity over the next year or two, Cattlefax CEO Randy Block says that producers will see improved leverage in 2021 and hopefully improved profitability. Overall, the forecast for the year has the average on fed cattle moving up to $1.19. 8-weight yearlings are expected to average $1.45, and Cattlefax says those 5.5 weight steers be about 5% better on the average at $1.70. Now, I mentioned those are averages for the year. Most of the analysts and economists are saying that we'll see a typical seasonal market this year, and of course that means yearlings will find their highs in the late summer, that August-September time frame. Fed cattle will peak in December in the fourth quarter, and Calves should find their highest prices here over the next 4 to 6 weeks. That usually comes in late March or April. Now, I mentioned that because we talked about LRP at the beginning of the program. Here, the Trump administration's USDA, right before they left office, made some changes to the program. Now, unborn calves can be insured, so definitely want to consider that. There may be the opportunity to lock in coverage at a pretty favorable price and still leave the top side open in case this market rallies more than we thought. So definitely reach out to Ag Risk Advisors. You can even watch some tutorials on LRP if you're not that familiar with it on their website, lrpadvisors.com. But certainly we're glad to have some optimism for this cattle industry, and looks like prices are going to move higher. Now we just got to wait for the rain to join along. Thanks so much for joining us for our Livestock Market Report. We'll see you down the trail for our next program.